Good morning, everyone. My name is Sri Kote, and as of about 10 weeks ago, I'm the new Chief Technology Officer at Comcast. I view my job at Comcast as being Tron. I'm there to fight for the users. And a large part of my internal journey at Comcast really parallels the work that we've been doing to become what we think of as a cloud-native product company. And what I wanted to do was talk to you about what that means, why we think that's so important, and how Amazon has played such a critical role in that transition. Now, most of you aren't used to hearing about Comcast at a technology conference, and so I wanted to spend a minute telling you about the company. I think most of you probably think of us as this big, giant media company, a little bit scary, and then, that's because, well, we are. If you look at the company, we did about $75 billion in revenue last year. The market cap of the company is around $160 billion. And Wall Street usually puts our peer group with companies like Disney and Time Warner and Fox and Viacom. But we think of ourselves as very different than those companies. Those are really companies, they're great companies, but they're really companies that are portfolios of great brands. At Comcast, we really view ourselves as a company that has a mission and a mandate. Now, there are two big halves to the company, the content side, NBC Universal, which most people know very well, and then the Xfinity side, which represents the service provider side of the business. And people don't always appreciate and understand the scale of the service provider side of the business. So of the $75 billion in revenue that we do, a full two-thirds, $50 billion, comes from the service provider side, and about three-quarters of the operating cash flow, the profitability and growth, comes from that side of the business. And in terms of scale, that represents about 29 million households that we have a relationship with, that we power with one or many of our services. And just to give you an idea on the technology side what that means, if you look at things like IPv6, which we've been at the forefront of pushing, it's been so critical to us as a business because we are literally out of IPv4 addresses. In fact, in the world, there are only two entities that manage more IPv4 addresses than Comcast. One is the Department of Defense, and the other is China. And so, we operate at this very, very large scale. And when I talk about the mandate and mission for the company, we really view technology as being central, vital to the future of media and media consumption. And so we feel like standing boldly at that intersection is going to be very crucial to the success of the company. A great example of this is our X1 product. So X1 is our flagship video product. If you sign up today as an Xfinity customer, you'll get X1. And if you haven't used it, and you have, say, Apple TV or Fire TV or an Xbox, I'm not going to stand here and say you're going to be blown away by what you see on X1. But I think you would be surprised. It's a premium, rich, modern experience. I think you would look at it and go, yeah, you know what? That's what television ought to be like in 2016. And the Olympics is a great example of that showcase and highlights why we think this intersection is so important. The last time there was an Olympics in the United States in the sort of Eastern time zone was in Atlanta about 20 years ago. And at that time, there were 200 hours of Olympics content that were available, basically over a 2-week period. So basically, 4 or 5 channels, 4 or 5 hours a day, you could basically watch all of that content. This year, we're making available 6,800 hours of content. If you try to watch all of it every day, every hour of every day, it would take you probably about 300 days to watch all that content. And this is why having a rich, premium technology experience to help you connect with that content, to find the teams that you love, the athletes that you're interested in, the countries that you care about, is really, really critical, and why the experience is so important. And what we've seen with X1, and this is going to sound like an obvious dumb thing if you're from Silicon Valley, but what we've seen is that when you build better products, people spend more time with you. And when they spend more time with you, they spend more money with you. And that's what we've seen with the X1 experience. Churn is massively reduced. People watch a lot more television, 30 to 40% more. They buy more services. They buy, 3 times as much DVR subscriptions, 30 to 40% more HBO, Cinemax, all the premium services, and it's pretty easy. If you build stuff that people love, they spend more time with you, and they forgive your mistakes. And so let's look at, as we think about the transition to cloud native and what that means, let's look at a microcosm here. So we launched last year the X1 voice remote. So the X1 voice remote was launched in May of 2015, and we weren't sure how this product would do. It was built by a team of about 20, 25 people. We felt like it might be a great thing to do, but we weren't sure if voice was really going to resonate for people in media consumption experiences, or it was going to be a little bit more of a toy for alpha geeks like Siri or OK Google. And so the original plan was, our forecast for 2015 was 10,000 voice remotes. A little over a year later, 15, 16 months later, it turns out we shipped 10 million voice remotes. So we were off by a factor of 1,000. And this opportunity, the opportunity to try stuff, to be wrong, and still deliver a successful product in the marketplace is a big part of what we think the cloud enables in some profound ways. So if you look at X1, X1 is pretty much a classic microservices architecture. Hundreds of services with a few aggregation services that do orchestration and performance management and reliability. And as we looked at deploying these at scale, X1 now is running on close to 20 million devices. We found that, of course, we took advantage of the basic elements of cloud, storage, network, and compute. But very, very quickly, that became insufficient to gain the kind of velocity and reliability that we wanted. And so we started to move up the stack. We started initially using DynamoDB to externalize some of the state. We use Route 53 for managing, interestingly enough, managing a fully programmable deployment of tens of thousands of VMs on a daily basis across both on-prem and public cloud infrastructure at Amazon. We started using SQS and SNS as a messaging bus. And we started to really get into the value of what it means to be cloud native. And that also afforded us some other opportunities. And so we're starting to now really be able to take advantage of rich, unique value-add services. And this is a big part of the transition to cloud. Instead of having these fully closed solutions where you had to pick and choose and they were kind of the same across the industry, the software as a solution model, and in particular, all of the services that Amazon are providing, allow you to assemble this toolkit that let you focus on the products and services that let you differentiate. So the latest that we've been leaning into is Kinesis. And my colleague Charles Hamill is going to be talking in detail about what we're doing with Kinesis and the data streams later today. But really, kind of the point of all of this is all the things that people talk about when they say being cloud native and embracing hybrid cloud are true. You really do get agile development. And when I say agile development, I don't mean code burn downs and sprints. I mean real agile, concept to customer, right? The time that you have an idea until that customer gets it in your hands can be measured now in what used to be, if you look at our old product pre-X1, we used to ship a product probably every 12 to 18 months. So over a 3 or 4 year period, a 3 to 5 year period, we'd maybe ship 3 or 4 releases. Now we ship 3 releases every week. So we can have an idea, we can make a change. This will happen even over the course of the Olympics. We'll make adjustments to the features and modify stuff and get it into across 20 million devices over the course of an hour. Developers can go, and that happens at large scale, and it can also happen at small scale. Developers and product managers can work on features and then have them running in their houses that evening when they go home. And this obviously enables autonomous teams. It massively accelerates feature velocity, and of course, it enables that reduction to change. As Werner talked about, to do that, unless you're starting greenfield, unless you're a startup, unless you're, coming from nowhere, you really do have to think about what a hybrid model looks like and what that journey entails. And certainly all of the things that he touched on are critical. You have to think about how you're doing integrated networking. You have to think about the data integration and lifecycle management. Security and access controls become an interesting problem. And taking advantage of AWS VPCs become critical in that model. And of course, you think about integrated resource and deployment and management models. And we have, going through this journey over the last 5 years, we've realized the benefits here. And these benefits are around cost and scale. And they're critical and they're important, but interestingly, they're not the compelling bit. They're not the bit that gets us excited about AWS and gets us excited about the future. The key parts that we get excited about is that this really changes your innovation cycle. It really fundamentally shifts how you think about product development. One of the classic project management time-space trade-offs has always been velocity or quality. And what we found is that that's no longer the case. You can have velocity and quality. If you look at over the last 3 months, we've shipped more features than we had shipped in our old product over the course of 3 years. And at the same time, we've dramatically increased the quality of the product. So if you look at the last 3 years running as we've made the transition to the X1 product platform and to this cloud-native model, we've increased the quality and reduced trouble tickets by 50% year over year every year. So less calls, less tickets, and massive increase in feature velocity. And this ultimately is really the point. It creates an opportunity for differentiation. And we've seen this realized in the marketplace. This isn't theoretical. If you look at what we've done with the X1 product platform, Q1 of this year, we had the best video quarter that we've had in 9 years. In Q2, we had the best video quarter that we've had in 10 years. And we expect that pace to continue. We've really been able to take all of the products and services and increase the usage, reduce the churn, and really drive real business value. It's not just about the cost reduction, it's about changing those innovation cycles. Fundamentally, the message I would say to you is that the cloud changes here. It's not just an option, it's the future. You can embrace it, or you can be obliterated by it. And on that cheery note, thank you very much.